Hey, I'm Cyclon, and we got the Ballast Manifesto. For those who just want somebody to quickly summarize the Ballast Manifesto in a few words, or rather a few sentences, and know what it is about so they don't have to read it, here we go. We got a buff to casters, but traps, mines, and totems, and triggers, and damage over time got nerfed instead to kind of counteract that. Hydrosphere interaction got not completely removed, but got heavily buffed. Bows and quivers as items are buffed. March of the Legion is pretty much dead, and I cry in Aurabot. We got added damage, all that got changed. Some got buffed, the skill gems got nerfed, the on items got buffed. Marks are improved, detonate bossing got nerfed, but the mapping overall improved, and there's no more immunity with Shade Form and Strength of Blood. That is about the most important thing that you can take out of the Ballast Manifesto. I hope this was helpful. Have a great time. And now let's take a more calm and more in detail look at it. I will try to leave timestamps for those who are interested in only specific areas. However, I might not just upload it quickly and will do the timestamps tomorrow as it's getting quite late. So, in Path of Exile, Siege of the Atlas remaking. Yeah, okay, that's the basic sentence. Let's go first. Player balance, hit-based spellcasting. The problem is, most hit-based spellcasting builds deal too little damage and have too few defensive and mobility options when compared with alternatives like traps, totem, mines, triggered skills, or damage over time. Their solution? Adjust the hit damage or growth of most spells. The majority of spells gained around 45% more damage at gem level 20, resulting in up to 60% more damage by gem level 25. Some spells have received smaller adjustments or no adjustments. These less affected spells are generally those that provide more mobility or supplemental damage through duration mechanic. Allow casters to obtain more cast speed through the Runic Dagger mod pool, increase some cast speed values, give rings and amulets additional tiers of cast speed modifiers. Give Orb of Storms more damage and mechanical redesign to solidify it as a great supplemental lightning damage skill. Give Flame Blast, Lightning Tendrils and Ice Spear some improvement to make them great skills for dealing high damage against single target. Improve many skills that rely heavily on unique threshold jewels to enhance their damage and remove or change these jewels. For many such skills, this means granting more damage in exchange for more efficient source of extra projectile. This includes skills like Freezing Pulse, Frostbolt, Heavy Strike, and Cleave. For damage-focused spells, the result of these changes means that their damage has increased on top of the damage multiplier noted above. I realized I can't read all that without glasses. Eyes will just stop focusing. Lower the power of Unleash support because it is the single most impactful support for the kind of builds that benefit from the aforementioned buffs. It creates limited options for these builds by feeling like the only option. With these builds otherwise being buffed, there should be more build options available than before. Lower the damage from totem, trap, mine, and trigger effects to balance out the buffs to these builds. The intention is that in general these builds should deal the same damage at higher levels as they did previously, while at face value these changes will look like nerfs. For the most part they shouldn't be due to the buffs to spells. However, we do acknowledge there will be a small number of builds that will be negatively affected by these changes. Additionally, because we've adjusted some support gems that multiply the number of traps thrown, we've provided some compensation for these non-cooldown trap skills like Fire Trap and Lightning Trap. Lower the damage of players' Ignite by 28% to partially offset the damage increase that many Ignite applying spells have received. For the majority of higher level spell gems, this is a slightly damage buff when combined with the above changes. Burning Arrow, Armageddon Brand, Explosive Arrow, and several other skills have received changes to compensate for the lower damage of Ignite. Attack skills and a small number of spells that are not typically aligned with Ignites will have weakened Ignites as a result of this change. We plan to introduce a mechanic for Ignite damage with melee attack skills to give some unconventional Ignite builds a new option for enhancing Ignites. Detail about this will be included in the patch notes. Oof. What a big boulder of text. We also got some specific numbers, which I don't think I will read all. I will go slowly through them in case anybody can read them as well. Actually, let me adjust this. that should be better readable for those who want to read them. I'm just going to look at those who are interesting to me, or I think are interesting. We got Arc. Arc now deals 6 to 32 lightning damage at gem level 1, previously 6 to 33, up to 198 to 1122 at gem level 20, previously 133 to 754. Now has 120 effectiveness of added damage at all gem levels, previously 80%. So this is huge. I mean, just going from 754 to 101 to 1122 is definitely improvement on top of 100% 20 effective damage level at all gem levels. I really like that change. Arc is a fun skill, but it still means that we somehow need to offset that we have to be a bit stationary to cast the Arc. So the cast speed improvements that we will be covering a bit lower down will definitely help with that. I think Arc casting or Arc traps or Arc mines definitely going to be fun. We have Blazing Salvo. I know that Blazing Salvo Miner was a pretty big hit in one league. Maybe Blazing Salvo is interesting enough that it could go back, but I think not as a self-cast by the way it interacts. We do also have, where is it? I guess Glacier Cascade and Fireball, as well as the Blazing Salvo. They do stick out a bit more because of their mine skills. Ice Nova, because of it is a skill often used with cast and crit. And Ice Spear because of the totems. I think those getting a buff will even out the nerfs to the totems or traps or trigger or mines, but they are not getting that hit above the nerf that playstyle would be interesting again. And the other ones I have not really played a lot. Purifying Flames I also remember is a miner, so maybe that is something interesting again, but I do not know enough about those skills to make a proper proper statement about it. Now we have support changes. I guess Arcanist Brand, Battle Mage Cry, Intuitive Link, and well, those are a bit whatever. Then we have Blast Chain and High Impact, which got 30%, 20% less damage at all levels, pretty much, or about that much compared to before. So those kind of make mine skills, which did not get heavily buffed up here, like Blazing Salvo, Arc, Glacier Cascade, or Fireball. So outside of those who got heavily buffed, I think mines are a bit hit and will not be as good as before. So I have Winter Miner, which looked quite interesting. I think got the biggest hit of the mine skills or mining builds. We also got Cast and Critical support with 19 less spell damage at Jungle, previously 20% more, and 10 less at previously 29% more. So I guess that, wait, if I'm reading it correctly, oh no, from 20% more it went to 90% less. I completely butchered that. Not 30%, yeah, so it did got a nerf too. On top of Poet Pen, Crossbreed Malice, and Mjolnir having their cooldown from 2.25 height words increased to 0.25 from 0.15. Okay, finally got through the words. And spell totems didn't went unhurt either. We have 49% less damage from 28 and 40 instead of 24 at level 20. And Soul Mantle has +1 to maximum number of summoned totems removed. And lastly, Spell Slinger, 37% less damage from his elements instead of up to 31 at level 20. I guess there is still the trap thing with cluster traps, multiple traps, and trap support. So, like they mentioned, across the board we got nerfs to all those play styles. And if you're not using one of the buffed skills, maybe there will be more in the Balance Manifesto or something that counteracts on other skills too, will definitely have a harder time than those that got buffed, which should still be okay. There are also some buffs to ignite. Here are some buffs that have been made to dedicated totem and trap skills and some attacks that are designed for ignite damage. So the ones that stick out the most to me here is Ice Trap. Outside of that, we have Blade Trap, Explosive Trap, Fire Trap, Lightning Trap, and Shockwave Totem, as well as Holy Flame Totem. But what I like about the Ice Trap is Ice Trap was, before the Seismic Trap build got very popular, Ice Trap build looked as interesting as well. And I think it wasn't that it got worse, it was just that Seismic Trap was better. So Ice Trap in combination with the Seismic Trap, which is still okay enough, I will say, might be viable as a bossing build for next league. Definitely worth a look into. Unleash got 50% less damage when reoccurring at gem level 1 from 30 and increased to 41 less damage level 20 from 21. So definitely a heavy hit to Unleash. And we have cast speed modifier changes. It is now possible to generate increased cast speed modifiers on runic daggers, increased cast speed modifiers on one-handed weapons now roll 50% higher at the lowest tier, up to 29 to 30 at the highest tier. Same for two-handed weapons, which also got improved. There are 3 tiers of increased cast speed modifiers that can roll on rings, from 5 to 8 up to 13 to 16. Previously there was only a 5 to 7 roll. There are now 4 tiers on amulets. There were previously 3, up from 5 to 8, all the way up to 17 to 20. The crafting benches have been updated and the veiled modifiers have been updated. And the Deafening Essence of Misery also got updated. So overall, cast speed modifiers got improved, which will definitely help self-casting builds, so they can cast faster and then move faster away with a flame dash or whatever a mobility skill or walking away they can do. And here we go to threshold jewels. Now I have to admit that most threshold jewels I have not used that many, but there were a few that definitely were quite good, so I will read through this section. Unique threshold jewels are no longer offered as a request reward from completing Death to Purity in Act 5. Instead, you are now offered a choice of a rare Crimson, Cobalt, or Viridian jewel. The following unique jewels can no longer be obtained: First Snow, Frozen Trail, Growing Agony, Overwhelming Odds, Rapid Expansion, Steel Spirit, Weight of the Empire, and Winter Burial. Now, First Snow and Frozen Trial, I think, were the 2 most used out of those. Hopefully I'm not wrong about that. If I am, please let me know in the comments and I will pin your comments so other people can know that too. But it's the proper answer to the statement. The Hazardous Research unique jewel no longer has, with at least 40 intelligence in the radius, spark fires 2 additional projectiles, or 15% to 20% reduced spark duration. Existing items can be updated with the Divine Orb. The jewel purpose is now only to enable firing spark projectiles in a circle if you want this behavior. So I guess it's more that the jewel gives you a bit of utility, but sadly does not give 2 additional projectiles, which would potentially be more damage. The Ring of Blades unique jewel no longer has, with at least 40 dexterity in radius, several knives fire 5 additional projectiles. Existing items can be made less pointy with the Divine Orb. The jewel purpose is now only to enable firing several knives in a circle if you want that behavior, so same as Spark. It's just to have to trade coverage for target damage, I would guess. The Spreading Rod unique jewel is now limited to 1, previously 2. This change affects existing items. It no longer has, with at least 40 intelligence and radius, Blight has 50% increased hinder duration. Instead, it now has, with at least 40 intelligence in radius, Blight has 30% reduced cast speed. Existing items can be updated to the new state in the Divine Orb. I guess that is okay. I don't really know if the hinder builds were using that, but the reduced cast speed I think is going to be a bit annoying. Now, Freezing Pulse and Frostbolt got in change for the removal of their threshold jewels in update. Freezing Pulse now deals 8 to 12 cold damage at gem level 1, up to 1458 to 2188 at gem level 20, from the previously 888 to 1332, and now has 330 effectiveness of added damage at all gem levels from 200. That is quite a big improvement, but Freezing Pulse without the additional projectiles can hurt. Oh wait, Freezing Pulse didn't got additional projectiles, so I guess that is honestly okay. Quickly checking my state. No, there was a jewel for additional projectiles. So without the additional projectiles, it has more damage, which is nice. Maybe it is now viable for single target more than it is for clear, but I guess no additional projectiles still hurts quite a bit. Frostbolt I would assume is the same. We go from 9 to 13 up to unchanged 1594 to 2392. Yeah, that is quite a bit of additional damage, but again we do not get the additional projectiles anymore. Spark I would assume the same. We have more damage, but we actually get 7 at gem level 20 previously from 6. So Spark got 1 additional projectile and some more improved damage, and lost only 2. So I guess Spark only lost 1 projectile, which I guess that is quite okay actually. Spark got a good, more or less a good buff out of this. We also got a buff to Ground Slam, now has plus 10% to Radius at gem level 20 from 6. Heavy Strike now has 20% chance to deal double damage at gem level 1, up to 39 at gem level 20, up previously from 20 at level 20. Cleave now has plus 8 to Radius at gem level 20, previously 6, now has 125 effectiveness of added damage at gem level 1. Unchanged up to 221 at gem level 20, previously 230, so Cleave got a buff as well. And Glacial Helmet now has 100 of physical damage converted to cold damage, previously at 60% conversion rate. I would say those are okay. I have not seen them being played too much, so I cannot say if that is going to be a huge difference, but I think it's okay enough. Ground Slam should be nice to have that, and maybe there was something that can utilize the high chance for double damage from Heavy Strike for a single target setup. Viper Strike now deals 90% of base attack damage at gem level 1, up to 140.2 at gem level 20, previously 135, now has 90% effectiveness of added damage, up to 140, previously 1 from 35. I guess that is okay. And lastly, Ethereal Knives, two more things, sorry. So Ethereal Knives now deals 7 to 10 physical damage at level 1, up to 949 to 1423 at gem level 20, which is an improvement from previously, and fire 9 additional projectiles at gem level 1, up to 12 at gem level 20, previously 9. So from the, I think it was 4 additional projectiles, we get 5 additional projectiles with Ring of Blades. So we've gotten 3, so I guess it's a slight nerf, but we got more damage, and we can still get it in a circle. I think Ethereal Knives is okay enough. And lastly, we have Blight. Base secondary duration is now 1 second, previously from 0.8. So Blight got increase in duration, which I guess is okay. There are changes to alternative quality gems. The anomalous Frostbolt skill no longer provides 0 to 100 reduced damage, or 0 to 20 chance to inflict cold exposure on hit. Instead, it now provides 0 to 40 increased projectile speed per second. And the Divergent Ground Slam no longer provides 0 to 60% increased AoE, and now provides 0 to 40 increased angle, previously 0 to 40 reduced. I don't think that's really a buff or a nerf, it's just a change. I guess the Frostbolt projectile speed per second is okay. I think the one that was used more is that they return once they ended. So I think that is neither good nor bad. Now we come to Orb of Storms, which I think is really interesting. But I cannot really say if I like the changes or not yet. I will have to play with a new one to determine that. Orb of Storms has been redesigned as a single target tool for lightning casters. The focus of the skill has been placed on its mechanic of hitting enemies when you cast a lightning skill in its area. Orb of Storms now deals 3 to 8 lightning damage at gem level 1, previously 2 to 7, up to 304 to 913 at gem level 20, previously 185 to 555, and now strikes every 3.5 seconds at gem level 1, previously 1.5 seconds, and every 2.5 seconds at gem level 20, previously 1.202 seconds. Beams now splits toward 1 additional target at gem level 1, previously 2, and up to 3 additional targets at gem level 20, previously 4. Now has 110% effective of added damage at all gem levels, previously 65, and the base duration is now 7 instead of 6 seconds. Orb of Storms no longer requires splitting from the caster when they cast a lightning spell in its area. Instead, it will zap an enemy in range every time you cast lightning spell from within the Orb of Storms area, making positioning much more flexible. So what they say is a rebranding, I guess, is that it now doesn't require you to stand opposite of it, but they reduce the additional targets and the trigger rate. And I don't like it too much because of that, I think. Of course, it can sound really bad, and it isn't that bad in-game, but Orb of Storms as a leveling combining with Stormblast Mines as for single target and for clearing packs early on was quite nice, and I think it will lose some of that. And it will not be as good anymore, so you will have to look earlier for an alternative damage combination. Lastly, Ignite compensation changes. We got an improvement to Armageddon Brand, now deals 69 to 104 fire damage at gem level 1, previously 46 to 69, up to 924 to 1386 at gem level 20, previously 613 to 920, now activates every 1.5 seconds while attached, previously 1 second. Now has 200% effectiveness of added damage at all gem levels, previously 135%. Armageddon Breath was and I think will still be a pretty good leveling skill to transition into, I think, in Act 3 after you killed Gravicos, or Gravicios, I really don't know his name. Burning Arrow now deals 200% of base attack damage at level 1, previously 150, up to 300 at gem level 20, previously 214. Also now has 200% effectiveness of added damage at gem level 1, previously 115, up to 300 at gem level 20 from 214. Now has attack speed of 70% of base instead of 90, now has a mana cost of 7 at gem level 1 instead of 5, and up to 12 at a gem level of 20, previously 8. Now uses the same bow animation as Puncture. I don't really know if the bow animation changes anything for animation cancelling or for I don't know if it's just going to be for recognizing it or it looked very different. I actually didn't know they had different animations. I think the improvement of the damage is okay enough, and maybe it could be good enough again to use as a build, but I have not played the old Burning Arrow skill, so I cannot say too much about the viability as a build. Wall Burning Arrow now deals 280% of base attack damage at gem level 1, previously 200, up to 400 at gem level 20, previously 284. It also now has 280% effectiveness of added damage at gem level 1, previously 200, up to 400 at gem level 20, previously 284. Now has an attack speed of 70 of base, previously 90, now uses the same bow animation as Puncture. And Explosive Arrow now has Explosion deals 5% more damage with hits and elements per explosive on the target, previously just hits. That means Explosive Arrow definitely is now a viable bossing for Burning Arrow, because it, with the elements, you can now go fully on element damage and utilize the Explosive Arrow element damage base and the per Explosive Arrow on the target. I know that me and my buddy for previous leagues have experimented with explosive arrow. It was always okay enough, but never really fully there. No, it really was just her, not me. Explosive Concoction now deals 20% added damage of all types at all gem levels, now has plus 60% to ignite damage over time, multiplier with ignite if charges were consumed from a ruby flask, at gem level 1 previously 40, up to 98 at gem level 20 from 78. Fire Burst, granted by the cast level 20 Fire Burst on hit essence modifier, now has a cooldown of 1.5 instead of 1 second, but now deals 1131 to 1696 fire damage at level 20 instead of 752 to 1127, and has 250% effective of added damage, which is a nerf from the previously 270. The Warflame Blast is at 100% more damage with armors from each stage, previously from 70. And Penance Brand Explosions now deal 90% more damage with armors per energy after the first from 60%. The Death Wish from Maw of Mischief unique now has 444 to 666 fire damage from 316 to 474. And the explosion now deals base fire damage equal to 90% of the minion's max health instead of 13. This sounds like you could make an interesting build with that. Maybe with the minion instability, but I have not looked too much into it, so I cannot say that yet. But maybe something interesting to look in the next league. Now that are the changes to the caster skills. I would say that's quite interesting. Overall, like I said, the Arc, Ice Trap, I think are the two things that poked out the most to me that I will look into first. And then afterwards the Death Wish and the a few others like the other trap changes or some of the other caskets could be interesting again. But again, we have to wait for patch notes. Maybe there's more to it that they haven't even mentioned here. Now we come to hit-based bow attacks. And that is definitely an interesting section. Hit-based bow attacks require an unreasonable amount of investment to reach competitive levels of damage. Builds that want to achieve this must utilize critical strikes, and many skills can't sufficiently invest in the mechanic without sacrificing defensive options. So they want to give bow players or bow builds more survivability and less investment needed to reach a proper level of playing of game feeling. I don't really know the word for that. So their solution is give bows the same local added elemental damage modifiers as two-handed melee weapons do, which are much stronger than the bow-specific modifiers used previously. Also, improves the damage of bows in general, with some base types getting up to 50% more base damage than before, and improves the mastery options on bow passive clusters. Lastly, make a number of improvements to quivers so that bow can receive much more damage from rare quivers. We have reworked the quiver progression with new quiver types that provide a diverse set of useful implicits. We have greatly improved added physical damage modifiers on quivers. We have replaced elemental damage with attack skills modifiers on quivers with increased damage with bow skills to allow quivers to roll another way to improve skills dealing physical or chaos damage. We have taken the +1 arrow prefix on influence quivers modifiers and added it to the core modifier pool of quivers as a suffix. We have added an extra tier to the attack speed and accuracy modifier on quiver. So there are a few interesting things here. So firstly, bow mastery, which they did mention in the specifics. Bow in general up to 50% more base damage. So there might be different bases than Thicket and Imperial Bow, which are the endgame build bases for most bow builds. And definitely the changes to the quiver. I think the most standing out change is the arrow +1 arrow prefix is now a suffix. I think it will collide with a few things. It will collide with the damage over time quivers with hunter influence for the toxic rain builds, which want dot and dot multi and preferable the +1 arrow. So that will be harder to get now, as all three are suffixes. But instead it could now substitute one of those with increased damage with bow skill, which now is a prefix, so and could, if I remember correctly, get up to 40 or 42% of bow skill damage, which is definitely improvement. Also for physical bows the same, they can now get double dot and Z as a prefix. I think bleed bow might be viable again. So let's take a look at the specifics. First, instead of their own line of modifiers, bow now use the two-handed weapon version of local added fire called lightning and chaos damage prefix modifiers. I'm actually interested in what that is, because I didn't even know that was different. So if we take a look at the two-hand X of added cold damage, it went from 140 to 187 to 278 to 332. So let's say 332 top. And on a bow, oh wow, 218. Yeah, that is an improvement. Crewers can no longer ward increase elemental damage with attack skills and now increase damage with bow skills. The highest new tier modifier is 43 to 50 increased damage. That is definitely a nice thing to have for those, for pretty much any bow build, honestly. And the Essence of Woe no longer grants increased element damage with attacks, skills and quivers, instead increased damage with bow skills, which can roll the highest modifier. So that also means a new way of crafting bows, maybe. Spamming that and then hoping for whatever other modifier is good, +1 arrow, alive, or maybe just a dot multiplier. Guess it could be interesting. The bow attacks fire an additional arrow is now a suffix. The Shaper and Hunter influence has been removed. Crewers no longer shares the same modifier progression for added physical damage to attacks as those on amulets. They now have their own line of modifiers, which increases value. For example, one of the new highest tier modifiers on Quiver is 17 to 23 to 34 to 39 physical damage to attacks. That is definitely a nice thing to have. For physical damage and dot bows, physical dot bows, Quiver can now wall additional tiers of accuracy. I guess the only build that really likes that is the accuracy stacker. Quiver's dexterity shields can now wall additional tier of attack speed. I guess that's okay to have. Essence of Zeal has been updated accordingly. Deafening Essence of Zeal now provides 13 to 15 increased attack speed on Quivers, up from 11 to 12. And Quiver can now wall Malicious prefix modifier, adding 27 to 41 to 59, 55 to 69 chaos damage to attacks. I do honestly not really know which bow skill would need chaos flat damage, but I would gladly be proven wrong that that is a huge upgrade for whatever build. We have replaced the bow mastery stats that gave movement speed with phasing and phasing on kill. We've also replaced the mastery that gave increased damage while you're wielding a bow and have a totem. The new masteries are increase and reduction to arrow speed, also applied to damage with bows, and 100 accuracy rating per green socket on your bow. So that is a second buff for accuracy stackers in the Ballast Manifesto already. And increase and reduction to arrow speed. Oh wait, that was. And that one is okay to have. I guess builds like, what was its name? Tornado Shot definitely would like to pick that up because they want to invest in arrow speed anyway. I guess the reduction maybe not. Are they even taking reduction? I guess it is an improvement. And the existing mastery that got improved is 100% increased Mirage Archer duration from 50. I don't think that will be picked up a lot. Neither will be the Blink Arrow and Mirror Arrow now have 100% increased cooldown recovery rate from 60. I know that there is a build that utilizes those, which will definitely pick it up, but outside of that I doubt it's going to gain too much attention. And lastly, we got Crowbar Updates. So we have the Serrated Arrow Crowbars for physical damage still, and Fire Arrow Crowbars for fire damage, the Shark Tooth for life on hit. Then we got, I think this one is new, the Feathered Arrow Quiver for arrow speed. which can be used for arrow damage with simple mastery, so definitely a nice thing to have for some builds. We still have the penetrating arrow quiver, we have the blunt arrow quiver with physical damage. I think that is new, because I think there was only the broadhead and blunt was for the totem attacks. 2-point arrow quivers for accuracy rating. Spike point for crit is okay, those are there. Blazing arrow quiver for new added fire damage. I think that's new. Broadhead now gives attack speed. That is new too. Wild arrow quiver, 10 to 15 of physical damage as extra chaos damage. That is definitely interesting. And then we have the heavy arrow quiver, the equivalent to the blazing arrow quiver, with 12 to 16 to 24 to 27 added physical damage. And lastly, primal arrow quiver, with 20 to 30 increased elemental damage with attack skills. I think that is a really nice range of quivers to get. And now we come to the source of added damage. So the problem is that added cold, lightning and chaos support skill gems provide a significant unconditional added damage that outclasses many damage options available to some builds, most notably bow builds. By comparison, many other sources of added damage are relatively weak. Solution: lower the strength of unconditional added damage support gems and raise the strength of local added damage and added damage to spells and weapons. So if we take a look at the numbers, I'm just going to take the example of added cold, because I think that was the most used in late game. I assume the other ones will be about roughly the same. So added cold damage supported skills now have 4 to 6 at level 1, which is unchanged, up to 152 to 228 instead of 169 to 254. It is not too much of a nerf, but it definitely is a hit. And instead we have the local added damage on weapons changed. So again, for cold, local added damage tier 1 modifier now provides the value of 149 to 244 to 300 and 348 on two-handed weapons, which also includes bows. So I think it's counteracted if you can go for those modifiers on bow. Previously 148 to 232, that was the 332 we saw, and on one-handed from it went up to 81, 111 to 163 to 189, previously from 77 to 101, so that one again got improved. Here we have some for physical. Tier 2 local physical damage has been increased by roughly 8%, with Tier 3 being increased by roughly 10%. And then chaos damage. I would say that's okay. It's overall a nice thing to have. So that definitely is improvement on weapons. And it looks like even physical for melee got an improvement out of this, so I am happy as a Cyclone player. And lastly, we have spell added damage, which I think the most significant impact here will be for leveling. Again, taking the cold example, tier 1 added cold damage to spells now provide value 61 to 81 to 120 to 140. On two-handed weapons previously 45 to 60 to 89 to 104 and 41 to 54 to 81 to 93 on one-handed weapons, previously 30 to 40 to 60 to 69. But here they did state with lower tier not seeing that much of increase, so, and the lowest tier no increase. But with I think tier 4 craft you do at level 20. Let me check that quickly. Not tier 6, not tier 4, but tier 6 apparently. So that could be a bit of an improvement. Of course, the one you do at level 8 won't have much of an improvement, but the one you can do with a rare ring gets you a T6, which could be a bit more damage, so will improve on your damage that you have in Act 2 to Act 5 with quite nicely. Now we do have a bit of a sad thing with the skill interaction with Hydros here. Certain skills that have a chaining or shockwave effect can multiply their damage against single targets by also hitting Hydrosphere. These skills should not be balanced around using an off-class or off-theme skill like this. Maintaining the ability to use this interaction will prevent us from improving certain bow skills and hit damage spells without the maximum damage output being too high. Solution: change Hydrosphere to have a 1 second cooldown before it can be hit again. This maintains the element mechanic on Hydrosphere to still allow for some special skill interaction, but it no longer such a significant single target damage to multiply for many skills. So outside of Lightning Arrow, Lightning Strike, Eye of Winter, Tornado Shot, Elemental Hit, there are quite a few of bow and attack skills that will miss this because it's going to hugely decrease their damage. I think the spell that it's hurt the most is Eye of Winter because of the chaining interaction. So the Eye of Winter minor bossing build definitely has taken a huge hit and might not be viable at all anymore. But maybe there will be other builds that will take its place. I mean, most likely there will be. Now we have something very interesting positively next with the triggering marks. When applied through a mark on hit skills or unique items that trigger them, marks are far more efficient for clearing and easier to sustain in boss fights. Builds that don't have access to these high-end items are disadvantaged in comparison. Now the solution: make marks permanent, so they only require a single cast for boss encounters. Add a new support gem that lets attack triggers mark them hitting rare or unique Add a new support gem that lets attack triggers marks on hitting rare and unique targets. So this means we could now have something like an Ensnaring Arrow, Mark on Hit, Assassin's Mark for bow builds to quickly apply the mark and then completely ignore it for the rest of the fight, which is a nice thing. And the marks being permanent is definitely a nice thing, but it's get even better. We have the Mark on Hit, marks are permanent. But here, the Dead Eye Focal Point Ascendancy passive skill no longer has marks you inflict are not removed from dying enemies. Instead, it now has your mark transfers to another enemy when marked enemy dies. And I really like this one. So I played the Instacker last league, which had the mark on a Spellslinger setup. Now, I guess you could still put it on a Spellslinger setup, or you could just hardcast it and then take it with you through the whole map, which definitely sounds very fun. And lastly, the influence modifiers hit a rare or trigger a mark when you hit a rare unique thing have been removed. This definitely hurts the Shaper bases most, I think. The Elder hit mark on hit hasn't been used as much. Now, Fortification and damage reduction. Fortification gained by scaling by the damage dealt by a fortifying hit means that hitting monsters with very high amount of damage reduction, such as in the Azeroth Mines, the Simulacrum, or against monsters that have just been spawned by a certain league mechanic, can grant little to no fortification, even for builds with very high damage. The solution: Fortification generation now ignores the target damage reduction. I don't think it's going to be a buff for anything. Oh, wait, no, let me rephrase that. I don't think it's a nerf to anything, obviously, and it is a buff overall for those builds that need fortification. But I was expecting the fortification and damage reduction changes that the champion would just have that change, that you have any condition to gain your fortification. For example, via a melee weapon or something, with the interaction between the champion and the Toxic Rain build. Skill balance. Problem: Detonate Dead builds can gain significantly more damage by diluting the pool of desecratable monsters with high life specters. Because of how desecrated selected monsters, the field monsters occurring in the area, the more damage Detonate Dead dealt. The solution: change Desecrate to have a fixed chance to spawn a Spectre Corp. This means Detonate Dead damage should be more consistent based on which area in the game you are in. This also means there is no incentive to bring multiple different high-level Spectre varieties. Also, you still benefit from bringing one high-life Spectre into areas. So what this means, if I understood it correctly, is that them having a static 50% chance to spawn your damage for bosses like Maven or Cyrus, where you had little enemies in the area, got reduced, but your mapping damage is more consistent now, which I think is an overall nice thing for most of the players, but definitely hurts a few who are using it to kill bosses quickly. However, it still is okay bossing skill for stuff like invitations, because if you kill one boss and then detonate his corpse while another boss is on top of it, it's still going to be huge damage. And now we come to Seismic Trap. Seismic Trap has a very high damage scaling, as it damage scales with increased area of effect. Increasing the area of Seismic Trap impacts greatly, increases the chance of multiply large bursts hitting the target. As area increase don't affect the area where the impacts can occur, so this mechanic is interesting. It provides far too much damage for the investment cost, and the damage of the skill would have to be lowered to buy so much to offset this that skill would be very weak without the overlapping mechanic. Solution: make modifiers to area of effect apply to the area a Seismic Trap burst can target at a ratio. This will slightly improve the area coverage of the skill, while lowering the damage growth from increase to area of effect without removing the damage benefit entirely. I honestly think that nerf is not that much of a nerf. If I take a look at my build to the Seismic Trap Saboteur, we have an increase in AoE from Chain Reaction, which is increased area of effect. We have increased area effect on Unstable Munition, and a bit on a trigger effect in Set and Forget. And I think that's about it. We are not using any increased AoE support on Seismic Trap itself. I don't think we were using any increased AoE on items. I think this is mostly fine. I think Seismic Trap is one more league good to go to destroy things. Except, of course, I totally did not understand how this scaled damage, and I'm completely oblivious to the fact that it's dead. The next, Toxic Rain has a very strong damage over time and a low build cost compared to other bow builds. Also benefits from sources of the quiver and mastery changes made to improve hit-based bow skills. The solution is reduce the high level damage of Toxic Rain in order to partially negate the improvements. Basically, they reduce the base damage at a high level from 285.1 to 238. I don't think there's going to be any impact with the improvements to bow and quivers. I guess both won't really improve this much, but the quiver will improve this with having additional prefix that can improve the damage. I don't think this is going to be noticed by many people. Maybe on the low investment end, but at medium investment already should be outbalanced. Now, this is the saddest part of the Balanced Manifesto for me. March of the Legion is a very low cost method to gain 4 extra auras on some builds due to the change where mana is not being required in order to cast an aura. Also took full advantage of the Supreme Ego Keystone in a way that goes against the intent of mechanic and gained a significant amount of power in the process. I didn't even know about that interaction, to be fair. Rework the blessing mechanic of March of the Legion to limit the number of blessings you can have to 1. Change skill cost to mana instead of temporary reserving mana. The process of making this change also highlighted a number of problems with other mechanics, which has led to a ripple effect of other changes being required. Release Blessing as a support gem to make the mechanic available to builds that are not using the unique item. That is a nice thing. This is intended to be useful for high mana use characters who wish to leave their mana unreserved, and for characters using the Blood Magic Keystone. Improves the aura level granted by March of the Legion, so the item excels at using Blessing Aura. Remove Mortal Conviction and the life passive from behind the Blood Magic Keystone and make a Mortal Conviction style support gem that makes an aura free and prevents you reserving mana. It will be mutually exclusive with Blessing, so you won't be able to use both simultaneously. This support gem provides slightly less aura effect to the skill that the Blessing support, but has no cost or upkeep involved. Change Blood Magic to also grant 10% more life to compensate for the removal of the efficient life passive behind the keystone. Change Supreme Ego to not limit you to 1 aura, instead give more aura effect based on how much mana an aura reserves. The full value of all these changes will be available in the patch notes. So, March of the Legion was the thing that, in my opinion, kept Auraboting alive. It definitely I will have to look to make it somehow work without having to be forced into low life, because I really didn't like that much. Having access to Blessing on pretty much any build now is a nice thing. Aurabots will definitely going to be picking up Blessing with 1 aura as to just have it, and then reserve or unreserve a different one. With having a clarity at level 5 to 10, it should be enough regeneration, so there is no downtime on the aura, or only a little bit. The Mortal Conviction, I guess, could be interesting, but more than that Blessing has for mana-based builds. I think Mortal Conviction is going to find one build, and Blessing is going to find many builds which are going to take that and utilize that a lot. The More Life on Blood Magic is nice for those builds that wanted to take it anyway. It's going to save passive points, which is always a nice thing to have. And Supreme Ego being based on the mana could be interesting, but I don't know the full implication of that change. Now there are a few more tiny things. The Shade Form TLDR really is that it has now a cooldown that does not tick down while it's active, and Strength of Blood Keystone can no longer scale with life recovery rate, because these two were able to give you full immunity to damage or part of damage. The Dancing Dervish, as Unique got spoiled, already got the Dancing Dervish now can get Rampage in a boss fight, which enables this build to be doable for bossing. I don't know how viable it will be for that, but it could be interesting. And Periphetes Dread Banner Fortification Duration Mod was apparently causing causing issues with the fortification system, so it just got slightly changed. That it grants extra stages instead of duration. And Void Fletcher got nerfed. We don't really know by how much. We will see that in the balance in the patch notes, but it got nerfed. So with the buffs to normal Quivers and the nerf to Void Fletcher, I don't know how much the changes will be there, if it's going to be a good or a bad thing. We will have to see the numbers for that. Overall, outside of the March of the Legion changes, I like the Balance Manifesto. It didn't feel like anything was nerfed too hard, and it felt like they are more focused on bringing stuff back up to an overall nice level of viable builds, instead of having a few builds that are super viable and the others are under viable. Not viable, but not fully viable either. I guess patch notes will show us more, as well as the reveal on this week's Thursday, or Thursday for me. I would definitely look forward to that. This was quite a long video. Everybody who stayed with me, listened to me reading down the Balance Manifesto, thank you for that. I really do appreciate that. I hope it was interesting and informative. And have a great day.